Hello and welcome. This is Mouse Gunner, and we're back with some more from the depths. And just like I've been doing in my previous videos, I'm going to be showing off yet another propulsion method in this video. Now, if you're wondering why my ship looks a little shot up, I actually had a previous attempt at recording this, and I had a bunch of technical issues, and I think I can probably put them down to a recent patch, kind of changing some dynamics of things, and I'm going to demonstrate where those things are when we get into the video. But first, let's look at the propulsion method. So we're going to be looking at jet engines in this video, which we have this big honking jet engine here. You see the exhaust end of it sticking out the back there. If we go ahead and clip inside, we'll see the other part of the ship. Now, this is a pretty sizable engine. It is essentially 1.5 decks tall, so if we come up a little bit, we can see the other part of the engine sticking up in the deck above. And I could go over like a tutorial of how a jet engine works, but that could be a video in and of itself, and I kind of want to highlight some of these systems, but they work very similarly to the way doing an engine build works in this game. Also, another element of this ship that I've added on are these hydrofoils up front, and I'll be demonstrating a little bit why those are important. So let's go ahead and look at the builder here and look in our inventory, a lot of the things you'll need. So first off, you're going to need to go to air to get the jet engine. You're going to also want to select your more selection in the complexity of your builder, and the jet controller is the main thing that you're going to be using. So this, again, works very similarly to the way the engine builder works in this game, just using the engine tab here. Very similar. It's not exact, but you've got some similar principles. You build the most efficient engine you can, getting the power you want. Now, one downside of the jet engine is it's very fuel thirsty, and we'll see that here in a bit. Another thing you're going to need under the water tab is those hydrofoils I pointed out here, and again, we'll be demonstrating that. And then for the controls, you're going to want to go to the vehicle controller. You're going to want to use the basic vehicle controller, not the ship's wheel, like what we used in our first video using the sail-powered and propeller-powered ship. So let's go ahead and look at what we've got here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the tab here, and the things you want to keep an eye on is the fuel, which is in the lower right, the little gas can that you see. The speed and meters a second, which is on the right side at the top of all that information. So first off, with the controller, if you see over in the upper left corner, this is essentially the control layout. Now, this only controls the steering of the ship because right now I'm in sail mode. So if I hit Y, it turns the ship to the left. If I hit I, it will turn it to the right. And the U and J will demonstrate in a little bit here. Now, to control the engine, I'm going to want to go to the air mode, because if you remember, the jet engine was under the air tab. So to start up the engine, I'm going to hit T, and you can start seeing a big gout of flame coming out here as we turn the engine up. And if you look at that, keep an eye on the speed there. We're getting some pretty good speed here. Now, a lot of it is due to the choppiness of the waves here. We're bouncing up and down. You're going to see some variance. But on calmer seas, you're going to expect somewhere around 8 meters per second. Because we're really bouncing around, we're actually getting a lot of variance, 7 to almost 10 meters per second. But as the ocean calms down here, that's actually very convenient for me. You can start to see it kind of leveling out here. Now, the one thing that I want to point out, if we go back to sail mode, is that hydrofoil. Right now I have it set up to give me maximum lift up there in the front. Now, to demonstrate what happens if you don't have that set up, I'm going to start hitting the U key, which is going to lower that hydrofoil, and you'll start to notice my nose really dips down. The power of the jet engine is really going to force that nose down, and you're going to see a dramatic speed decrease. If you look over in my speed, we're now looking at somewhere around 5 to 6 meters a second. So that's really slowing us down quite a bit. But if we get our hydrofoil to give us lift in the front, we notice that we're getting a lot more of a straight line profile. We're not dipping down like that. And we're getting a lot more speed as a consequence. So that's a really good idea if you set this up. I could have set this up maybe to be a little bit more balanced, but this is honestly as low down as this thing can go without it being in the ocean. And if the jet engine is below the ocean, you're not going to get any thrust at all. So you do have to have it above the water. Again, we just go ahead and hit Y to control the turn here. This thing is pretty good handling. I have a number of rudders there, so it turns pretty well. And we lose some speed while we're turning, but once we get everything back up, we're good to go. Now, if you look at the fuel consumption there, you'll notice it's going down quite a lot. We started with something like 21,000 before I started thrusting here, and we're already almost down to 16,000. So this consumes fuel pretty quickly, and that's one thing that you're going to really have a hard time with a setup like this in the campaign mode, where you're going to actually gather your own resources. In creative mode like this, it's not as big of a deal, but there you have it. I have a lot of fuel tanks on this ship, though, specifically to mitigate that issue. So to stop ourselves here, we're going to go ahead and go back to the air controls, and we're going to go ahead and hit G. That starts to slow us down. You see the flame die down, and there we go. Now, let's get into the other element of this that I'm going to be demonstrating, which is the missile systems here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the HUD, and we're going to look at the missile launchers here. So this is one of our missile launchers. And again, I could go over a tutorial of how you do a missile launcher build, but again, it's pretty complex, and that could be a video unto itself as well. Maybe something we can do in the future. So let's go ahead and look at our build mode here, and come out to look at a couple things that are going on with the missile launchers here. All right, so if we go over here and we get to the missile launcher, of course, we're going to have to switch to the turret. Now, turrets are separate from the rest of the ship. I can't build off of the turret right now until I actually switch to the turret. Now that I'm switched to the turret, I can actually build on it. But in any case, if we get to the missiles here, oh, I thought you could do this in this mode. You should be able to hit Q to bring up the... Oh, there we go. It just wasn't giving me the button prompt. Oh, because my HUD's off. That's why. Okay, so in any case, once you hit Q on the block, this is where you can customize your missiles. And this is all the depth that this game has to offer. Just all these things that you can do with your ship systems are just amazing. In any case, this is the missile as it's set up, and these are all the options I can put on it. So right now I have a short-range thruster, a couple fuel tanks, some fins to steer the missile, explosive warhead, obviously to damage the enemy ship, and then a laser designator to steer it. And you might have been able to see that little laser pointer sticking out earlier, and that's the laser designator. And just to show on my other turret, which is over here, if I hit Q, this is a little bit different. It's pretty much the same in the back, but I have an infrared seeker instead, no laser designator. And that's one of the technical issues I was having. For some reason, this missile launcher, the laser designator wasn't working like it was on the other missile system. And I couldn't tell why that was happening, so I just turned this into an infrared seeker. So that was one of the technical issues I'm having. And anyway, just to show off some of the things you can do, not only can you make these missiles, you can also change them to be torpedoes as well. So as you can see here, rather than having a thruster, you could put this, change it to a torpedo propeller, and have it go under the water. A number of other things you can do. For instance, you can even set this thing up, if I can find it, as, a harpoon. So you have a harpoon head, you shoot that enemy craft, it sticks in there, you set up some cable, and then you crank that thing back in towards you. So that's one thing that you can do. There's a number of things, obviously, that you can do with these missile setups. And that diversity is one of the reasons why I'm really enjoying this game. It is a steep learning curve, but it's very interesting, all the different things you can do. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what these systems can do. To demonstrate that, we're going to try our best to not use the ship cannons, which are also AI controlled. Now, another issue I've been having, and I don't really know why this is when I'm close enough to one of the missile launcher turrets, the AI is not taking control of it. Now, in previous tests that I did before a recent update, it was working just fine, and I really couldn't tell why that was happening, why the missiles were not being taken over by the AI. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time. We may not have... Oh, okay, maybe if I stand right here in between the two, we'll have the best results. So I'm going to turn on my HUD here so we can kind of see some things. And we're going to go ahead and load in an enemy craft here. And I think I'm going to do the Vanguard here, which is what we used in our previous video as our enemy. It was a pretty formidable opponent in that last video. Let's see how it does against our missile system. So let's go ahead and turn this off. And where is he? Over there. So it looks like the AI is controlling both, so it's kind of not having that issue. So you can see both the infrared and the laser guidance and how that works. So the laser is pointing at the enemy and guiding those missiles in. The infrared are essentially taking care of tracking on their own. So let's try and get over here to the enemy craft before it blows up entirely so we can see those missiles coming in. And there they go. They're wreaking all kinds of havoc. And now the enemy ship has been damaged so severely, they're essentially, after that timer goes down, they'll essentially self-destruct. Now we're having a little bit of slowdown here. I don't know, again, if that's purposeful or optimization issues. I'm not seeing any frame drops as far as my video recording software is concerned, but it sure looks like frame rate loss to me, as this is really slowed down quite a bit. And that's one thing with this game that seems to be kind of a issue early on. I mean, it's still early access. It does have some optimization issues, apparently. Let's go ahead and jump back into our craft. You could see how effective that was. At pretty long ranges, we just destroyed that craft in a matter of seconds. So, pretty formidable. And as I said, I kind of noticed that one little issue where if I'm in close enough proximity to the missile launcher, the AI doesn't take control of it for some reason, and I really don't know why that is, because in previous tests, it had no issues at all. But it is what it is, and again, it's still in early access. But in any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.